Hey, this is Jeff from the Garden. I've started my solo podcast channel on YouTube at The Souring Gentleman. I've started this because Jim has been away on vacation for a couple of weeks, and I really wanted to touch on this topic of abortion and the leaks from the Supreme Court about their decision about their draft to overturn Roe v. Wade. And as I've said before on the Garden podcast, I used to be bitterly conservative from about really 2001 until about 2012. And I would listen to conservative talk show hosts day in and day out. Every opportunity I had, my radio was turned to Glenn Beck or Michael Savage or Neil Bortz or someone like that. But again, that was over 10 years ago. It wasn't until I got a job working at a website where I was kind of the political correspondent, and I would have to record audio clips and transcribe and write descriptions in an impartial way for both sides of the political argument. And there was a lot of work that had to be done around the time Mitt Romney was running against Barack Obama. And so, I'm not conservative anymore, even in the least. And a lot of that is because I had to really take a close look at both sides. And it seemed to me that the liberal position typically had the most sense about it. And maybe I'm too old, or maybe I'm just not impressed or enamored by fast-talking conservatives anymore. Their arguments tend to be only slightly less childish than their personas. But still, the pull of people like Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, and Candace Owens can't be understated. Now, these people, along with their political puppets like DeSantis, Trump, and Mitch McConnell, they're laying the framework for our current culture wars. And with the appointment of Trump's conservative judges on the Supreme Court, it looks like a nuclear option is in place for any of the culture war battles we're fighting right now. Since the draft to overturn Roe v. Wade is leaked, we're forced to take a hard look at other culture war issues that are under threat from the new conservatives. In my first podcast episode on this channel, I speculated on the slippery slope of gay marriage and the potential for that to fall. And gay marriage seems like it may be securely fastened to the chopping block when you read statements from Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. And writing for himself and Alito in 2020, Thomas says that the court's decision enables courts, and this is regarding the decision on gay marriage in 2015. And so 5 years later, Thomas writes for himself and Alito, saying, the court's decision enables courts and governments to brand religious adherents who believe that marriages between one man and one woman as bigots, making their religious liberty concerns that much easier to dismiss. But in my opinion, when it comes to marriage, the government should only see a civil commitment between two people and not just a man and a woman with a commitment to God. Yes, your religious liberty should be dismissed when it comes to that religious liberty overshadowing individual liberty regarding something like marriage equality, especially since the Bible doesn't call for marriage specifically to be between a man and a woman anyway. It does reference men and women in marriage, but the Bible is okay with a man having multiple wives in places like Genesis 4:19. If these conservative Supreme Court justices think biblical marriage is between one man and one woman, they haven't read about Abraham, Jacob, David, or Solomon, or any of the others in the Bible who had multiple wives. Solomon had something like 700 wives and 300 concubines who were basically just wives of a lower status in 1 Kings. And if you tell me, oh, these verses are from the Old Testament, I would ask you where your hatred of gays comes from, or where your resistance to gays comes from. It's all Old Testament nonsense. Your religion has no place in my life. And it has no place in the government's decision about our autonomy, our equality, or our rights as American citizens. Justice Thomas, you're complaining about your religion being easily dismissed, but you refuse to even consider Sharia law for the good of the country. I wonder why the religion of Islam is so easily dismissed by the Christian conservatives on the Supreme Court. Maybe that's because there's no room for the consideration of any specific religion when making our laws. And with this as the attitude now that the Supreme Court is stacked to favor the religious conservatives, who's to say they won't be tackling something like gay marriage next? What other forms of equality are they willing to overturn to satisfy their religious ideology? Especially when they're facing something that feels like persecution to them. So I'll ask again, how can you say this country is not being run from behind a pulpit, or at least from within the pages of the Bible? These justices are complaining because they couldn't ban gay marriage, simply because of their religion? And what they don't understand is the Bible isn't even talking about homosexuality. There was no word for homosexuality back then. Their favorite Bible verses that are typically used to condemn homosexuality are arguably talking about incestuous relationships in Leviticus and hospitality in Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis. This is day one material. There was no word for or concern for homosexuality in Jesus' time. You have to go way back to the Old Testament to find that kind of misunderstanding while reading the text. And the fact that Jesus was silent on the topic of homosexuality should be an indication that it may not be the hot topic that conservatives would hope for. Not only that, but the conservatives' preoccupation with and referencing of Leviticus seems to always skip over the fact that our Supreme Court could just as easily ban shellfish and polyester cotton blends based on the same passages. But they conveniently overlook the fact that we're told not to eat pork in Leviticus just a few chapters earlier. So why is it that our Supreme Court justices can be so concerned with their religion being so easily dismissed when they aren't even representative of biblical principles in the first place? What religion are we dismissing by accepting gay marriage when their own Bible isn't even clear on the subject? They're looking at their own doctrine as a mirror to reflect whatever preconceived ideas they begin with. And if they had any sense of consistency, they would rule that we should dash our misbehaving children against the rocks as they do in Psalm 137:9. But wait, shouldn't we rule by biblical principles? Should we also stone a woman to death on her father's doorstep if she's not a virgin on her wedding night, like in Deuteronomy 22:20? Nobody seriously believes we should live according to biblical principles, except for people who argue against things like abortion and gay rights. People like Steven Anderson from the New Fundamentalist Baptists, I don't even know what the name of their church is, this hate group who's like now 20 minutes from my house. But they're the only people who seriously believe we should live according to biblical principles. And even still, it seems that they're only willing to live that way when it comes to things like abortion and gay rights. But when talking about abortion, if you think abortion is murder, God is still the most prolific killer in history, slaughtering around 23 million unborn babies globally per year. If God is so pro-life, why does he kill up to 50% of fetuses, most before the mother even knows she's pregnant? Why would he slaughter up to 20% of fetuses after the mother knows she's pregnant? Where's the right to life based on biblical principles when your own God is the greatest killer of the unborn? Why would he even create a fetus? Why would he help you create a pregnancy if he's just going to destroy it in 50% of the cases anyway? So we have Thomas speaking for himself and Alito while claiming that they're concerned that their religion could be easily dismissed when they don't even have the backing of their own doctrine, and they certainly don't have the backing of common sense. So I would ask again, why should we allow for any religion to have any say about any American laws? And if there is to be no establishment of religion, as it says in the First Amendment, who's to say that the Christian faith should have any sway regarding things like abortion, marriage, or any other law that the Christian right sees as immoral? Our government is not built to make moral judgments. It's meant to preserve individual rights with no regard for religion.